It is 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call to order this special meeting of the Old Saybrook Police Commission. Present are Alfred Wilcox, Chair, Renee Shippey, Vice Chair, Joe Miller Francesco, Secretary, Jacqueline Prest, Jessica Kaye, Mark Carvin Dossel, and Mark Soniano. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Comments from the public. Do we have any comments in the live audience? Paul.
I always raise my hand first, by the way, just to make sure you don't stop the comments before someone raises their hand. Anyway, my name is Linda Mahal, Old Saybrook resident, and I just wanted to mention three things briefly. One, as you go forward with this search, I would urge you to please use a search firm that uses the standards of the International Association of Police Chiefs, which is the standard that the PERF report folks use. I would really like to see, and I think Old Saybrook residents and businesses deserve the highest standard of police services, and I think that is widely recognized to be that standard. The second thing I'd like to say is that I started coming to meetings intermittently 5 years ago, and my first requests all had to do with communication, with opening up the lines of communication between the public and our elected officials, which were, I didn't even realize at the time, were extremely restricted. And I've noticed over the years, as you all have struggled to open those lines, that there was a lot of pushback, and we've seen perhaps why that was the case. So as you go forward, I'd like you to please remember our First Amendment. There's a reason that it's the First Amendment. It's the one that all of our other rights and privileges as people living in this country is based on. And we need to be able to talk to you, and all of you need to be able to get the information you need freely. That means you're allowed to go online and read an article and so forth. So please remember your First Amendment rights, do whatever you can to protect them, to expand the definition of them if necessary, so that that stays open. And the last thing I'd like to say is, please remember that there's been a lot of suffering that has happened over the years, and only some of it has come out in court cases, in testimony before this committee, in interviews with PERF. These are people who have suffered, in my opinion, needlessly, and we owe them we have a great responsibility to those people. I personally have not suffered, even though I'm before you. You know, I've not been arrested. I have no, personal beef with the department. I've come here simply as a citizen who wants to look out for other people. And I think most people feel that way who have come forward. So let's please remember those people who have suffered and prevent that kind of suffering in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the live audience? In the virtual audience, if you'd like to comment, please raise your hand virtually. Do we have any raised hands, Larry?
No, we do not.
Okay. Let's go on to item 3. Discussion and possible action on a process for engaging a search firm. I'd like to get this ball rolling. I offer a motion, and I'd like to speak in favor of it very briefly. I move that a subcommittee be formed consisting of Vice Chair Shippey, Secretary Nutter Francesco, and Commissioner Prest for the purpose of interviewing and reporting back to the Commission on the references supplied by search firms interested in assisting the Commission with its efforts to identify and engage a new chief of police. The subcommittee is authorized to use its discretion in identifying references its members interview and questions its members ask. Let me speak to that for a minute. I've distributed today 5 proposals that our ex officio member, Mr. First Selectman Fortuna, has obtained from people interested in serving as our search firm. They have supplied us with dozens of references. I spent a few minutes today preparing a quick list of questions that we might want to ask.
Mr. Chair, may I just quickly, did you make a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
He made a motion and he didn't second.
I didn't ask for a second. May I have a second? Thank you. Is there
Who
a second?
seconded?
You'll
Who did?
No.
I will if no one else does.
So, and just very briefly, well, we can talk about how we arrived at these so far.
Right.
I don't mean to,
Oh, no.
because you mentioned my name in soliciting them, which I did, but I want to make sure that people know how these ended up before you,
These
the five.
suggest, the five, okay.
The five.
So we have a second
That was, yes, and we'll hold on the vote until discussion.
discussion.
Get copies?
I don't have any more.
Oh, too bad. Huh?
I'll get, you want copies of what?
Carl, this is only as an illustration. It is not to be
Yeah, okay,
taken as anything other than,
okay, right.
you know, if I spend another 10 minutes, I could probably come up with a lot more.
Right.
But my point is, we're going to have, somebody's going to have their work cut out for them. Making contact with the people who are on the reference lists of each of the, let's call them bidders. You have to make contact, then you have to sit down and chat with them and cover the questions, whatever the list is. And, you know, summarize it and then report back to the full commission. But we can't, as a 7-member commission, get together and start, you know, making a Zoom phone call. That is just completely unworkable. So we have to have some structure to do that. It occurred to me that the probably simplest structure would be a subcommittee with this very limited task. It may be that the results of the reference checks significantly narrow the field. It may be that they don't. I don't want to predict that. We have to start somewhere, and this seemed to me like a logical starting point. That is the rationale of this very limited motion. I invite comments.
Okay, just short, very quickly. So there are 5 in front of you. Right, am I right about that? We still may have 1 or 2 coming. Okay, so Perf does this. And they may or may not. We've made contact, said this is what we're doing. Actually, the chief recommended 3 potential firms. One of them was the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and they have submitted a bid. Another one was a company called Baker Tilly, and they're a national search firm. They do government, they do private sector, they do everything. I reached out to them today. They're probably going to submit a bid. Okay.
And that was from the chief's recommendation.
Well, he recommended 3.
Okay.
And
I just
Baker,
wanted to make
yeah,
sure that's
Baker
right.
Tilly, Perf, and International Association Chiefs of Police, which we would have solicited from anyway.
Yeah.
And Perf maybe too, if they're interested. The others, how did we get there? There's a company called, I'll name the companies, Badge Quest. Our town attorney knew of them. He said, there's a company, they're in Massachusetts. They've helped other towns I know. I looked them up. I inquired, talked to somebody, they gave me a proposal. You have it. I received it, I said this at a public meeting last week. I had had a conversation with a former chief of police from another town who called me randomly and said, I don't care what you do, but if you need any assistance, I have a lot of contacts in the biz, run something by me. I'm happily retired, nothing else. He goes, but I do have a friend of mine who runs a search firm in Massachusetts, and that's Public Safety Consultants, which is also in front of you. These are both firms that do work in New England. It looks like mostly. So you have that, you have IACP, you have Eric Daigle reached out to me. Attorney Eric, you guys are all familiar with Eric. Said, hey, we do this too. I said, Eric, if you're interested, send me a proposal. And the other one was Randy Frank. Randy is an executive search consultant. I reached out to Randy. She's been in municipal government for 30 years. I've known her going back 12 years, 14 years. She submitted a proposal. Publicly, I'm not going to comment on the quality of any of the proposals, but that's how you got to what you have now. And I think, so you have more of a national one, and then you have some ones that look like they do a good job, that are more New England-y, I think. I shouldn't characterize them in any way. And that's it. I just wanted to let this board know how you got what's in front of you, and primarily, all right, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And I want the public to know that too, that, you know, I don't have skin in the game in any of these firms, not one way or the other. Whatever this commission chooses to do, we'll move forward.
Nobody around the table has a
have
conflict of
something to
interest.
I have something to say. This subcommittee, if they have 7 groups, they should take the top 3 and bring them back to us. I don't think that they should make the decision on who's gonna be the one that's gonna make the call. I think that they should go through their thing and pick the top 3 and bring them back to the commission.
It has never been suggested that this.
I'm just saying what I feel, that's what I would like.
Well, based on the motion as well, the motion does not say anything about
I know,
the committee
that's why,
selecting it.
I know, but this is a discussion, okay? I'm not trying to get anybody upset. I'm just trying to say that I think that if you guys will do a great job, we selected 3 good people. You narrow it down to 3 people and bring it back to us. I think that's the way it goes. I don't think you guys should do all the interviewing. I think guys should figure out who the best 3 are and bring them back to the committee. I mean, not everybody's gonna get picked. I wish there was one that just did Connecticut and Connecticut municipalities, but I don't think you're gonna find that because of the way the system works. But that would be a very good way to do it. It's just my 2 cents. Why we got a discussion.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't think that all 7 of us can deal with this. Subcommittee is what we're
I think
thinking.
it's the most effective, efficient.
I
way
mean,
to
we've
do it.
met a lot, we've all gotten together a lot. I feel like we can all get together to do this task, but
The thing is, the task itself is really very clearly well-defined to just one aspect of the process.
okay,
And from reading the motion, it seems like the only charge the committee is going to have is going to be to make the references, make the calls for that,
okay,
and then bring that information back.
okay.
That's exactly
You
right.
see, I think you should do more than that. I think
Well-
you should, you guys are all qualified. That's why you're here. You got the criteria, what we need to find out. I mean, I don't think all 7 of those companies should come in and sit with us.
No, I would agree with you there,
I would
but
agree.
I also think that we all have the proposals. We can all sift through the proposals, digest them, and then come back together with the information from the subcommittee about references and just sort through it together as a
And then we
group.
can collectively make a decision.
Right,
Yeah.
And then we would probably whittle it down to just 2 or 3
Right.
and make the interviews based on that.
Okay, so it's Chubb, Jackie, and.
No,
Oh, no, Renee gets to be allowed now. I'm allowed now.
Renee,
Yeah,
Renee would be the chair.
Yeah.
As vice chair of the commission,
okay,
and then Jackie and Jill.
and Joe, okay, so the 3.
So I have a question, because I kind of envision this a little bit differently. I thought we were gonna get together as a subcommittee, 3 people, read through the proposals, look at the references. And then the subcommittee was gonna, out of the 6 or 7, however many we end up with, make a recommendation to the police commission to interview a certain amount of companies. If not, then it sounds like we're just gonna go back and the police commission is still gonna interview all companies.
No, we're not going to.
We're not. Okay, I just didn't get that from the motion. Okay.
No, but it would be the full commission that decides 2 or 3 do we want to interview. It wouldn't be the subcommittee.
Okay, so the only thing that the subcommittee is gonna be tasked with then is looking at references.
And not, yes,
Okay.
talking with the references, checking references.
And I'm happy to assist in any way I can,
Well,
because talking mayor to mayor might be easier than if, just to make the connection. I'm happy to help
okay.
if I can.
Now, this list of suggestions came through collaboration with the 2 of you?
No, just, I sat down, as I said, for
Well, this
10
is
minutes.
your craft.
I just did it because I wanted to
I have
illustrate.
nothing to do.
It doesn't mean that this is gonna be the final thing.
Not at all,
No,
no.
no.
Yeah,
That would
that's
be up
what
to
you
the
said at the
subcommittee.
beginning.
That would be up to the subcommittee. This is just to illustrate the point I'm trying to make, that there's a lot of work to be done contacting and interviewing as many of these references as the subcommittee thinks are worth checking.
Right, that's why I might make an amendment to that motion.
I think it's part of the motion, but
Well, you didn't say that they would break it down and I was gonna make an amendment to that, they bring back the top 3 that they saw. And we can go that, I mean, this is a lot of work for them to do it. If they just don't, if they come back and we have to have 3 or 4 meetings,
I don't think we do.
I hope we don't, because I think it should be done quick and efficiently.
The point I'm trying to get to, Mark, is what's the most expeditious way to do this? If you look at these proposals, they talk 3, 4, 5 months. We don't want to spend 2 weeks checking references. We want to have, we want to have that move quickly. That's why I think a subcommittee is the best way to do it. We can't have 7 people.
A subcommittee is the way to do it.
So, and then the question is, okay, you've now checked the references. What happens? Well, the subcommittee is going to report to the full committee on, the result of the reference checks. And with that additional information, I think the commission, all 7 of us, can very quickly winnow it down. You've looked at these, I've looked at these.
I haven't seen the email yet.
Some on their face, I think, are excellent candidates. Some on their face are maybe not as excellent. I think this commission can readily make that call. But I don't think we should do it without checking references.
So just to be clear, we, including Carl, are going to hire a chief. It's not gonna be the subcommittee.
Absolutely correct.
Just wanted to say that out loud. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Let's,
No, and that needed to be clarified, I
Yeah.
think, yes.
Thank you. Okay.
I should say that the first selectman, as an ex officio member of the police commission, does not have a vote. But he does have a voice, which is why he's here.
I understand they're gonna check references, but do you think many people put a reference down that they think is gonna give them a bad reference?
Typically not.
Not, typically not, but some of these are very unclear as to what's the level of the hire.
Yes,
Some of them are unclear in other respects. And I think we can learn some things if we ask questions that are designed to elicit that kind of information. I mean, some of my questions are designed to elicit information that can help us.
So we're still gonna sit down and hash out 6 or 7 companies as a group of 7.
The subcommittee,
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Three of you guys.
No, the 3 of us are only gonna do fact
The
checking,
reference
reference checking. Like, I envisioned this differently. I wrote a whole thing of how I thought this was gonna go. I thought that we would do the reference checks, we would look at all the companies, the subcommittee, and then choose, 2 to 3 to bring to the police commission, but. So we're just still gonna be back with all 7 of us talking about it.
No, what you just said is how I picture it to go. You guys are gonna dwindle it down to 3 companies.
No, we're not.
No.
No, that's not what they just said.
no, they're gonna make a recommendation, they're gonna make a report to the commission on the results of the reference check, hopefully very quickly. And, they can get together tomorrow and decide who's gonna take what
Sorry.
candidates and what are the questions that they're gonna ask. And then they can go do that in a couple days and report back to the full commission on the results. And then the full commission is equipped as best it can be to winnow the field.
So why even a subcommittee? Like, why don't we just do this?
Because we need to check the references.
So-
That is the
Okay,
purpose of this.
I get it.
You said, oh, we
I
can
got
get
it.
together tomorrow. The way I understand it, we need to notice this as a meeting, even if we go into executive session and discuss it.
Correct.
So we can't have it tomorrow.
No.
That we may need to vote first to approve the subcommittee before we go further on that.
All right,
I tell you what, I take out a lot of work. I think if you come back with 3 out of the 7, the top 3, then you've done a great job, and you, coming back with all 7 and giving them to the whole commission is gonna take a full night.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna go fast.
nothing precludes the committee from saying or suggesting that these 3 rose to the top based on the recommendations.
That's good.
That would not be
Yeah,
the
that's
final
good.
decision of the subcommittee.
No, it wouldn't be, but it would be the suggestion that these rows. I think this is, we've talked it through.
yeah, I think we talked it through. Maybe we should just vote.
Well, if there's nothing further, I'd like to call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous?
Now, is there, Renee, as chair, do you want to see if we can get together this week?
I've already reserved the room for Wednesday, but the scope of what I thought was gonna happen has now changed, so. I work full-time during the day and I'm gonna have to make these phone calls while I'm at work. So I don't know how much I'm gonna get done tomorrow and Wednesday before we meet. I thought the way this was gonna go is that we were gonna have these proposals,
Well,
the
wait.
3 of us were gonna,
So my understanding, okay, I think what we have to do on Wednesday would be take this a step at a time. We should get together and decide on questions,
okay,
what we're going to do, what we're going to ask them, so that each firm is asked the same questions.
Perfect.
And then beyond that, we can then go and make the phone calls.
After we kind of like organize it.
well, maybe you can run it then.
What?
Maybe you can run the subcommittee then.
No, I don't want.
I
to.
did my homework today and last night, but I guess that didn't matter. Okay.
Well, let me,
Did you already look at the
let me read something.
No, Carl did.
I sent,
I did what? What did I do?
I sent around a memo, also, I sent around a memo today from John Merchant. And here's what I think is the most important thing he says. For its actual search, the police commission could and should vote to create a personnel search committee. Such a committee, when reformed with respect to an executive level position such as a police chief, is exempt in its entirety from the FOIA and its open meetings and notice posting requirements. And I think engaging a search firm is an integral part of a personnel search committee. And I think the subcommittee, we can say that we're a committee as a whole, being a search committee, and the subcommittee is part of that committee as a whole, and therefore you can meet whenever you want, and you don't have to post, you don't have to give notice. It's not a public meeting.
Are you talking about the subcommittee?
Yep.
Okay, because when it comes to the regular committee, we had to do that when we did our second go around of the study of the police department. We definitely, when we're as a whole entire group and we're reviewing people's proposals, that has to be an executive session. Isn't that what we did last time?
I think so. So I don't mean to throw a stick in the mud here, but so let's say you have a total at the end of the day of 6 or 7 interested companies. You, as the chairman said, will likely have 3 or 4 that look like they're the right fit to move forward. And excuse me for doing this, and I say with all due respect, and I want this police commission to do what you guys want to do, but one way to do it is to rate the proposals. And then do the interviews and check references. That's another way to do it. So I might suggest that you could look at the 5 right now and you may eliminate 2. And that way you're not calling references for 5. That's one way to do it. And then the committee as a whole, if you do get it down to 3 unanimously or close to unanimously, you can just interview those 3. We all want this to move with relative speed, so I think it's just an idea. I'm happy to assist with what's been voted on already in the process, but that's another way to do it.
We couldn't do that tonight because the commissioners have not had enough opportunity.
Yeah, no, right. Oh, understood that. So.
And I would hope that while the subcommittee is working, the commissioners are diving into these proposals.
Yeah.
So that we can overlap.
Well, okay,
But-
but feeding off of him,
Building
I know.
on.
building on the rating thing, that worked really well when we were doing the lieutenants and sergeants. Could we possibly do something like that? Like where, we can all deep dive into the 5 or 7, however many we have, and then we rate? I mean, because I feel like, if I give a score of like 50 out of 100, we know we're not gonna go that way. Same, do you know what, like? I think it worked really, really well, and I think that we all learned a lot by doing that reading. Again, in one place, so.
I see nothing wrong with each commissioner looking at all these proposals and rank ordering them for themselves. Here's my number 1, here's my number 2, here's my number 3, 4. So we get together and we discuss with the benefit of the reference checks.
Yeah.
Some of these reference checks are going to be easy. One of them only has 3.
So you voted, but I mean, this process has to move.
Yeah.
So
But I think the suggestion of, each commissioner coming in with sort of a rank order is very helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
And I urge this subcommittee to take a good look at the Virgin memo that I sent around.
Okay.
No, as long as you say we don't have to, Larry doesn't have to be the record anything, that's fine by me.
So they don't have to even post their meeting?
Right.
Okay, are you gonna let us know that you're meeting?
Well, I reserved the room for Wednesday in anticipation of
Okay.
me going, but
Okay. Cool,
Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Second floor conference room.
okay.
There's nothing more on item 3. Let's move on to item
Can
4.
I just say one thing? Maybe we should also try and reserve a room for Monday of next week for the 7 of us to get back together, or do you think that that's too quickly?
I would hope it's not too quickly.
So, yeah. You could probably set that meeting right now, right? A meeting for next Monday? I mean, before you left.
Reserve the room
Yeah.
or?
Well, if the room is, we don't know what room is available.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
This is the
And
5th
Larry
Monday.
will be, Larry's gonna be away,
Right.
a well-deserved vacation. So,
It's not a public meeting, so we just have to make sure the room's available. And I'm sure you've probably cleared that.
I already have the room for Wednesday, which is a subcommittee meeting. Jill is now talking about reconvening on Monday night as another special meeting with the entire police commission. So yes, that would have to be recorded, posted and recorded. And if we're discussing the companies, we have to go into executive session.
Well, no, because this is part of a search for an executive, according to John Burcham.
Right, but we're not
You're
getting a
not subject to
subcommittee.
FOIA. So all we need to do is reserve a room.
But you said as a subcommittee, we're not subjected to
Well, as a
FOIA.
committee of the whole.
Okay, that's news to me.
But should we go into executive session when we're talking about that, so that the other company doesn't hear what we're
That's
talking about?
part of the reason why the FOIA requirement doesn't apply, and it's not a public meeting.
There's still
So
locked up.
because it's not a public meeting, you don't have to go into executive session.
you just meet.
You just meet.
Just show up
Just
here.
meet. Called a non-meeting meeting.
It's called a get-together.
And by the way, that term exists, a non-meeting meeting. In FOIA.
So what's Monday's date?
So it's the 7th. So Goodwin has break the following weeks, and 7th is fine, for me at least.
And then that would be 6:30.
Is everybody good for 7th?
I'm good.
And then we're meeting Wednesday.
That's it.
Okay.
We're conference.
Anything else on item 4, item 3?
Second floor is available next Monday.
Second Chelsea and Linda, that's gonna be regular meeting.
I'll do the 7th.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to item 4, comments from the public. Anyone in the live audience wishing to comment?
Yeah, I have to make one. Carl, can I look at that slip that he gave you?
These are just examples.
It's a draft.
It's a draft. It is,
I want to see what type of questions you are going to ask.
Up to the chairman.
no, this is not a public document. I don't want to have a draft of what we might be asking candidates circulating publicly.
I'm not taking it out of the room.
No, that's not the point.
Well, hold on a second. Is the public going to be able to sit in on these meetings?
Not the meetings as we are searching for a new chief. No.
What about the interview with the headhunters? Can we sit in on them?
No, it's all search.
This is all part of the search.
No.
Now, the
it's not.
search
Hold on.
process, as many of these consultants propose it, includes vehicles for getting input from the public, from the people in the department, from interested stakeholders. So, and you can always write letters to the commissioners.
I don't write one. Let me just say one thing. You don't get recommendations from the chief when you're doing something like this.
One of his recommendations was perf, even though he felt like he didn't want, and they do searches, IACP is well known. He recommended national firms, he didn't recommend anything,
For anyone.
and,
Why are we letting them back in?
no, okay, I'm not gonna.
You understand? 15 years, he's controlled
All right.
this commission,
Okay.
Carl, 15 years.
Thank you.
No, I haven't had 3 minutes yet. That's another thing that's gotta be changed. Next election. That's ridiculous, 3 minutes. You really should interview the 3 best people, the 3 best headhunters to get a sense, because you know nothing about police work. And until you learn how you're gonna hire the next chief for this town. We spent more money on this commission than we have. I'll tell you, this town deserves better. And the people ought to have an input into who the new chief is gonna be. The type of person. Otherwise, you'll make a mistake like Hartford and you'll have to withdraw his name after 2 weeks. Because the background check wasn't done sufficiently. And who's gonna do your background checks? Just you people?
No,
Who?
The firm that we're hiring to do this study for us. The
And how are
search.
you gonna know about their credentials? Who's
Well,
gonna-
that's what they're interested in.
That's what we're gonna do. If you were listening, this is the subcommittee that we're gonna hire. We are gonna have a firm to look up everything, and we are
Wait a
going
minute,
to figure
the
it
chair
out.
should be.
But we don't get to listen to that presentation?
We're not there yet.
No, when you get there to pick the 3 firms.
Okay, 3 minutes. Thank you.
This is
We're
where,
gonna get rid of that.
this is why I brought up the point about last time, Carl, you were there, Carl. We had to, when it was time to look at all those things, we can't sit and just discuss that. Unless you say you don't have to have it as a meeting. I don't wanna have any missteps. I don't wanna get at the end of this thing and be like, oh, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. Like, I don't believe when this whole entire police commission gets together, that it doesn't have to be noticed as a meeting.
I'll tell you what. Let's,
Table that.
Okay, that's fine.
no, Renee, what we're gonna do is we'll have our town council present, maybe at your next meeting to guide the commission on that,
Yes.
okay? So Renee, we can ask that question
Okay.
and have a clear answer on it.
Okay. Sir,
Hi, Mark Hand, I live in town. I wanted to say, first of all, you can tell, and it's evident in the way some of the public speaks, there's some trauma over the last, however many years when we've seen this commission, not just this actual commission, but commissions prior to yours, be obfuscated a lot, have a lot of obstacles put on them. And the public has suffered that. So I think that's why you maybe sense some anger, not to speak for you, but that's happened. And I'm not an expert on municipal purchasing, but I thought there would be like an RFP procedure where you publicly request. And I know you don't answer questions to the public, but I'd like that somehow addressed. Maybe Mr. Fortuna, maybe you could answer that. There seems to be great urgency. Let's all take a breath and slow down. I suspect the town got into this situation, and by situation, I mean an unconscionable contract that I still don't believe is legal with the chief. Probably because people were rushing. I would urge you to really slow down. Also consider, and yes, I know you have, the attorney's opinion about what's public, what's not public. And I know a lot of this proprietary information, of course, has to be dealt with in executive session. With that said, please keep in mind, the public feels like they've been kept in the dark. The public has been saying that for years. You can continue to keep them in the dark, or you can acknowledge at least the perception, like getting excited that, oh, it's not FOIA, it's not subject to FOIA, we don't have to be recorded. As a member of the public, I'm like, wow, that's okay. If that's the attitude, that scares me a little bit. And I do think that, it sounds like only the first selectman and the chief through the first selectman have proposed.
Yeah.
Now, for all I know, that might be all there are. I mean, how many search firms are there? But I think it would behoove the commission, for somebody on the commission, to try and find some other firms that weren't provided by the selectman's office
Fair
or the
enough.
chief. So I just think it would be, and if only to make us in the public feel better, okay? Because again, there's been some trauma in this community. There's further trauma. I for one think the town's getting the short end of the stick in the deal that the chief made for his retirement, just like the deal for his employment. And I cannot be the only one thinking that. I'm glad it's happened. We need to move past this. I wish you the best of luck and thank you for, let's remember, you are volunteers. Thank you very much, because you don't have to be here and you are. And it really means a lot to me that you are, so thank you.
I don't want to establish any precedent of engaging in question and answer. But I will say this, it has been explained to me that among the important reasons for this kind of blanket exception for executive searches is a recognition that a police chief sitting in Department A is not going to apply to Department B if that's a public information that his Department A knows about. So they try to keep all of this in a confidential arena.
I just asked you to share with me.
Why don't you put an ad in the newspaper?
So,
Okay, that's why I don't want to get into.
so, I want to address one thing on, timing, and this may sound odd coming from me and my elected party that I'm in. This has to be concluded prior to the elections, okay? And I have full confidence in this commission. We need to move this process, we do need to move the process along, and it's not, I'm happy to do an RFP for a consultant. That'll put you at least a month out. We could solicit bids, and, you know, we have a right to solicit bids. And by the way, your comment that I've been trying to do as much homework as I could in the last 3 days to put as many firms in front of the police commission as possible, just because I want to move this forward. IACP, PERF, Baker Tilly, I mean, they're national firms. I mean, they just are. And then there's a couple that are more New Englandy. I am happy if anybody can find additional firms, honestly. I mean, and I was just trying to, it was more of a convenience to the commission. I was trying to move it along. An RFP process is fine, but trust me when I tell you, you'll be running up against it on the back end. And if we want to wait, if we want to drag that process out, you may be into the next police commission, whoever, whatever the components of that are. And I think it would be, I think this process can be done in 4.5 months. I think it can be done in a very open and transparent way. And to everybody's point here, while the consultant process may not be FOIable, subject to freedom of information, because people are working with the consultants, the public will be engaged significantly. And I've made that clear to every one of them. I've said, there may need to be a survey, there may need to be public hearings, or not public hearings, but a public process, like what are we looking for?
Public outreach.
For the town of Old Saybrook and our next police chief, and whether that's at the middle school or the high school. You know, so it needs to be, and the fact that we've had, I think I saw the chief's letter, 6 chiefs in the history of this town. The town, this commission needs to choose the next chief, the town does, and that is quite clear. So if there's additional firms that need to be, that to submit, I'll keep searching. But I really wanted to make it clear that I'm not trying to taint the process by just bringing certain firms forward. And that's why I wanted to respond to that. I am not. I was just trying to expedite the process.
I was shocked that there was 7. I didn't think there was that many.
You
firms
get
that
into
did.
the national firms like Baker Tilly and PERF, you know, Baker Tilly, you could probably find several large national consulting firms that do public sector. You know,
What do they charge?
I don't know that we want to get into that right now. But it runs the gamut. We're not gonna get into what they charge right now. That will be revealed, but there's a cost to it, obviously.
Carl, do you know any high police individuals that you can talk to, any of your first selectmen or
About
even
what?
mayors? if they use some,
If they knew what?
If they have used search firms.
if they have used somebody to hire their chief, you can probably find out with your credentials to call somebody,
Yeah, I can,
see where the.
I actually
recent
have,
hiring.
but again, I don't want, I don't want it, that looks like, I don't want it to all rely on me. I'm happy for other people to come up with suggestions. If you go home and do a search tonight, and you guys come up with someone, bring it to me, I'll reach out to them and I will make sure they have a proposal in the door. We just need to move this forward. If we wanna finish this process and have a new chief in place, I think the goal should be October 1. Because after that, it just gets messier, I think. So that's my opinion, that this commission should probably be hiring the next police chief as it's constituted right now. And I could get in trouble for saying that, but I just think it's the best path forward.
Okay, do we have anyone else in the live audience? Yes, Ms. Molly.
So I'd just like to second Mark's comment about the need to really look at the process. I think Renee was speaking to this. And if the process, I was a school teacher and I used to teach my students about cheating and honesty and integrity and plagiarism. And I always told them, avoid cheating and the appearance of cheating. Okay, so it's very, very important with what we have gone through as a town, that we not only obey the letter of the law, but we take into account the spirit of the law and how things look. Because not everyone is coming to every meeting and can hear, your answers to individual questions. And I would encourage you to communicate proactively with the public. And I would encourage that proactive communication to come from the commission, not from the first selectman. Because with all due respect to Carl, there is a strong perception that Carl has been covering for Mr. Spira for many years. I don't have an opinion on that, actually. I don't have any proof of that, but there's a strong perception of that. Okay, so as much as Carl is doing all these great things, and I can see his reasoning, when the public no longer hears from what used to be the opposition, right? There's a perception that you've been co-opted. And that is going to damage the process. It's going to damage our town as a whole, which has been very divided by this process, by this person. And I'm looking forward to a much less divided town. But we have to be careful about the steps we take to get there. The other thing is, I'm glad to hear it's imperative that the town have, as the PERF report suggested, multiple opportunities to say, to say what they've experienced and what they hope for. We've learned that Kalia, for example, is not good enough, okay? What are our new standards gonna be? And that has to be something that comes from the entire town, not from a group of insiders, which all of you now are. And you have to recognize that you are now insiders. And there's a certain level of distrust that comes with that if you are not reaching out this way, because we get to come, we get to say something, we're done with 3 minutes, and you're not supposed to respond to us. That's a very restricted communication, even though we can write you letters, right? And the last thing I'd like to say is that, just for an example, in the town of Guilford, not that much different than Old Saybrook, they have their personal cell phones of the police commissioners on the website. Compare that to what we have gone through as a town to get the chance to talk to any of you without it being filtered by the chief of police. Think of the struggle that this town has gone through just to talk to an elected official about police matters. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone in the virtual audience wishing to comment? If so, please raise your hand. None?
Raised.
All right, comments from commissioners?
I'm good.
All set.
Jessica?
No,
Paul? Renee?
no,
Jackie?
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm all set. Thank you. How about a motion to adjourn?
Second, so moved. Thank you.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Thank you, Carl.